Aazhibikoong, Bomgiizhik Indigenous, Kinebiguk Shabigajwat and Don Jaba, Gnoje and Do Dem. My name is Murdoch. I'm from Serpent River First Nation, and I'm from the Fish Clan. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fat. That is correct, fat. Fat was such an important part of our Indigenous diets. I remember growing up in the bush, the old people always rendered the fat from the animals. They said that the fat was very, very sacred to our bodies and that we needed it to survive. And when you think about it, our brains are made up of 60% fat, and they depend on the acids in the fats to function. If those acids were not in those fats, our brain simply wouldn't work. And so the elders always said that the animals, they store knowledge in their fat. You know, just like a moose nose, a very sacred part of the animal that we eat. It's full of fat. And so it's a ceremonial dish because we know that there's knowledge in that fat. The moose, it eats in the swamps. It goes into all the hard to reach places that we can't go to. It eats up all that medicine. And of course, that medicine is stored in its nose. All of that knowledge from the earth is in that fat. So when we eat it, it becomes a part of who we are. We become connected to that swamp. We become connected to that knowledge. We also become connected to that medicine. That medicine becomes a part of us. The elders often said, if you can't find the medicine, find the animal that eats the medicine and eat that animal. And you'll get doctored the same way. They always said that, you know, a long time ago, if an animal suffered when it was dying, that memory is stored in its fat. And we don't want to eat that because then we're going to eat suffering too. And our bodies will suffer too because of it. When you think about a beaver will, of course, they live in families. They'll teach their children what to eat, what roots to eat, what shrubs to eat, what plants to eat during sickness. And so there's thousands and thousands of years of traditional knowledge that gets passed down from generation to generation amongst that beaver nation. So when we render that fat down and we make something called Aazhibikoong, and when we eat that, that knowledge gets transferred. That fat becomes our fat. That knowledge ends up in our brain. And we too begin to understand, like how those beavers understand, or how that moose understands, or that otter. And so they always treasured fat. Growing up, they had jars of fat of this and jars of fat of that. They had fat for everything because it was sacred. It was also a ceremonial food. They used to believe that these spirits, they loved to eat that. So we'd render down our fat, our mde, and we would, make offerings of this fat to these spirits because it's so highly treasured. Because we know that knowledge is valuable. And so when you give them some of that knowledge, or when you give them something valuable, it's a really good present. It shows that we're sincere in our offering. And so fat is essential in our learning. They say that when children are small, when they're little, when they eat that bone marrow, they call that wine. When they eat that, it helps their brains develop strong. Oftentimes we take the fat of a bear and we eat it. We fry our food with it. We rub it on our bodies all the time to ingest that knowledge. That bear, it fasts inside the ground for many months. It's fasting, it's praying. And all of the knowledge that it receives from the underworld, all of the roots, all of that power that lives there, it gets stored in its fat. And as the bear travels along the earth, it starts to eat all of that stuff. It starts to dig around, it starts eating it. And again, it stores it in its fat. And because bears, they understand the power of medicine, they understand the power of the underworld, we treasure their fat. It's powerful. And so we rub that on our bodies so that we too can get some of that power. So say if you have something important to do, say you have a very important speech at a ceremony or a gathering, you would put that bear fat in your hair so that you'll be able to say the right words. You'll be able to speak with wisdom. You'll put that on your face so that when you look at people, you'll be able to look at them with integrity and honor and respect. They take that fat, they rub it on their body because they know there's medicine in there. There's knowledge in there. And it goes inside our skin and it'll help fix us. So fat was very important. When I really think about it, there was lots of times when our people were sick and they used fat as a way to fix them. I remember years ago there was an old man who was sick. Very sick. He had a bad heart problem. So he called for help. And this old lady came to him and boiled a fish, a white fish. And she cut off the stomach parts of that white fish, and they were really fatty. And she made him eat them. And then she also made him drink the broth. And it helped him. He got better. So fat was really an important part of our diet. If we're always eating pig fat or cow fat or chicken fat, then we're getting another set of memory. We're getting another set of knowledge that doesn't come from here. And I'm not saying pigs and cows and chickens aren't good to eat. They are. I'm just saying that we're getting another set of knowledge. And because of food factories, these chickens and these pigs and these cows that are not raised properly, they live in suffering. They live in torment. And that becomes a part of their fat. It goes into their fat. That becomes a part of their memory. And we ingest that into our bodies, and it can make us sick. And if we're already sick, and if that's the foundation of our body, if that's the foundation of our mind, then when sickness comes, our immune system will be down, and we're not going to be strong enough. So we have to eat our own fats. Learn about your own fats in your area. Maybe it's Esban, raccoon. Maybe it's otter. Maybe it's Bijou the lynx. Maybe it's bear, moose, deer. Maybe it's a groundhog. Maybe it's a skunk. Skunk fat is very powerful. They used to render all those fats down because it would make us strong in our mind. All of that traditional knowledge gets passed down generation to generation. It gets stored in the fat. It gets stored in here, our mind. So our mind, it sends signals to our heart and back and to the rest of our bodies. That's why years ago they used to take the fat off the heart. And they used to use that for ceremonial reasons. Because they know that fat in the heart is very, very sacred. It holds a lot of knowledge. And so I just wanted to share that much with you about fat, the transfer of knowledge, and why it's so important to go back to our traditional foods. So thank you for listening, and I hope you found this interesting. But this is what I know. And so when you see old people having all sorts of jars of fat, don't tease them. They're doing it for a reason. Okay, Bama Pig Wab Min Minwa, Nahao. Aukse.